imagine it's 2001, and you have a choice to make about a little thing called an encyclopedia. You can go with a product developed by one of the great companies of the world called Encarta, millions of articles, et cetera, developed by all these people, tremendous scholarship, tremendous attention to expertise, bought and paid for by this tremendous private company. Or January 15th, 2001, you can start with this thing that became an encyclopedia called Wikipedia that costs nothing, has no paid employees, and started off as a failed experiment that was turned into an open source, free open source project and sort of let loose to run on its own. It's 2012. Where's Encarta? Where's Wikipedia? Okay? So, one of the important things about that is that we have to trust a different kind of model than something as simple as the distinction between what is a market-based solution and what is something that can be different, that can be based on a different concept. What is free? What is open? What is enabled for all of us? So the question that I want to start off with is, why? Why do people do something like build an encyclopedia from scratch using their free time? Not paid employees, people who do it because they do it. I submit that the best reason that we do anything is because we want to contribute innately. It's something that we have, this entrepreneurial spirit that isn't necessarily driven by a financial consideration as much as it is our own desire to create, our own desire to innovate and to share, to pass it on, to contribute a verse. You can use whichever cliche you'd like to, but I think it's true. I think that people do decide to do something because of those better angels of our nature. I think that they decide that they want to contribute in a way that's going to outlive them, that's going to have an impact across a society and potentially across the world. So the mission of the Wikipedia Foundation, the Wikimedia Foundation, of which the Wikipedia project is the big one, is imagine a world in which the sum of all human knowledge is available to everyone in their own language. Start small. This is the idea. This is the vision. This is what is out there as an ideal. That is the kind of thing that if you really think about it and think about how radical a proposition this is, how far this extends beyond the cloistered, rich world of Western civilization around the world for everyone in their own language. Think of the ways that that idea begins to trickle into all kinds of very, very disruptive technologies, the use of mobile phones in Africa, for example, the salvation of languages which are potentially at risk of total destruction. What happens if we can save this for the future? So these are really cool ideas. I think it's a fascinating thing that's been developed. And we have what is now Wikipedia. If you look today, I think it's over 43 million articles. And this part will blow your mind. Less than 25% of it is English. What started off as being the English Wikipedia, now more than almost 4.1 million articles, is just a small slice of this massive explosion of information that's happened over the past decade plus. So, in the summer of 2005, I was sitting at my desk, checking my blogs, checking all this stuff I like to check out, and I came across a note on one of my favorite speakers and authors, Professor Lawrence Lessig, who was on hiatus, and this guy, Jimmy Wales, from this thing Wikipedia, was giving a little guest post about things that should be free. And it talked about different ideas, but the big one obviously was a free encyclopedia. And as I was sitting at my desk up in Tampa, I said, I wonder where these guys are. And I punched it up, took a little digging, and I found that their office was in St. Petersburg, Florida. A half an hour across the bridge, I could look out the window from my office and kind of imagine it sitting over there. And I did what the rational person would do. I emailed Jimmy Wales and said, hey, we should get together sometime. You're in Tampa. I'm in Tampa, you're in St. Petersburg. Well, the secret is Jimmy's never in St. Petersburg. Jimmy is traveling the world at all times, going somewhere, giving a speech about Wikipedia. This is 2005. At the time, the number of employees of the Wikimedia Foundation was exactly 2. There was the brains behind the database, a wonderful guy named Brian Vibber, the guy who answered the phones, and that's it. Volunteers, all the way down, all over the world, spread out, making this thing a living reality based on a foundation that had been founded as a not-for-profit, but had exactly 2 employees. This is crazy. This can't work. I got to know them. I eventually did get to have lunch and meet Jimmy Wales. I got to know the people who were associated with the organization. I got to talk with them about a whole host of concerns that they had as a not-for-profit in a space that was, just sitting there. I mean, all of this activity, everything that happened, it's sort of like a university model, where if you think about the physical plant, the buildings, everything that's associated with having a structure of a university. And then within the classrooms, you have all the excitement that's happening, the interaction between students and professors, and the learning that's going on, the work of the university itself. So I'm a foundation guy. I'm interested in making sure that we have a strong foundation for the foundation, I'm thinking to myself. I'm thinking about the kind of risk that they have sitting there as this little tiny organization that's barely organized as an organization practically in St. Petersburg, Florida. But we had that conversation, and I talked with Jimmy about how this could happen, that you could have an organization that was flourishing, that was at that point almost in the top 20 websites in the world, being run on a tiny shoestring budget with barely any headcount, and yet thousands and thousands and thousands of people relying on it every day. And we looked at those threats. So this is where my secret comes in. I'm a lawyer. I view the world differently. It also happens that I'm very defense-oriented. I like to prevent my clients from getting sued. I like to head off these crazy lawsuits from wingnuts who are trying to disrupt the world in their way. And I knew in my soul of souls that I was really nervous about what I was learning about these people and this thing that they'd created and how marvelous it was. And you could see the activity and all these exciting things that were coming out and new articles every day and stuff. But it was also very, very troubling because, like this guy, this is Sisyphus. You may remember Sisyphus is the guy who decided that he was better than Zeus and was condemned to an eternity of rolling a rock up a hill only to have it roll back on him. Kind of like the reversion procedure if you decide to go in and edit an article on Wikipedia and put in something stupid, watch what happens. It all gets rolled back. But this is the thing. Once you get to know the people behind a system and you understand that a foundation is not the bricks and mortar, the activity that's in the university is what's it. No diss on Harvard or Yale or anywhere that have beautiful campuses or love the fact that they enjoy beautiful spaces. The power, the presence, the living is in what happens inside the classroom and what we pass on from professor to student, from student to student, and so forth. So my takeaway as I got to know these people was very, very simple. I don't want these people to get hurt. I don't want this beautiful thing, this incredible edifice that's been built keystroke by keystroke of people around the world to get blown away by some obnoxious plaintiff's lawyer in the United States who thinks he's going to make his bones by suing Wikipedia. And that became something I took very strongly to. I wanted to make sure that this organization didn't get destroyed. So we talked about it. And it happened that I started fielding phone calls and emails and the inevitable, I'm going to sue you, stuff that came from all over the place. But very quickly, a very serious threat happened. And it happened in Germany. It happened because a gentleman who was well known in the hacker community killed himself. It's very sad. His name was Tron. The family was very concerned. There's an esoteric German legal explanation for why, but the bottom line was that because it was revealed in an article that this individual who went by the handle Tron, his true identity was known, his family wanted to shut it down. They got a judge to consider an injunction that would shut down not the article, but German Wikipedia. And they did it because the little office in Germany, the German Wikimedia Foundation office over there, not part of our organization, but as a chapter, happened to hold the domain .de for Wikipedia. But the judge's concept was, I'm going to shut down the entire thing, what we call overbroad in legal language. I'm going to shut down an encyclopedia because there's one name in one article. We consulted with our German counsel. We got involved. We started talking about all this. Now remember, the Wikimedia Foundation at the time kept all of its servers. The whole thing was sitting up in a server room in downtown Tampa. So we have a German judge considering whether to shut down a German language document in its entirety based on one name in one article by seizing a domain, even though the servers and the entire body of what we're talking about was sitting on a floor of a computer room in Tampa, Florida. Like I said, very nervous about what can happen to these things. It worked out. We were able to prevail upon the judge. It never went anywhere. We dodged a bullet. That was a very, very important moment because it pointed out that we knew we had some serious issues. We needed to do something about it. So I did. This is me on my first day of work. I went to work for the Wikimedia Foundation. I became its interim executive director and its general counsel. And the approach was very simple. Keep us out of trouble. Start small. Try to prevail upon people not to kill this beautiful thing we've created. And it happens that, in an esoteric sort of way, my specialty as a lawyer is helping convince people that suing my clients is a bad idea. And there are lots of reasons for that. It's not just cost and expense. Does anybody know who Joe Francis is? You may have heard that name. He's the guy from Girls Gone Wild. Got a call from his lawyer. Joe's not happy with his article. I'm like, yeah? Long story short, we end up in a conference call that lasted about a minute before Mr. Francis decided to start screaming at me about what was going to happen if we didn't fix his article. And his language is not appropriate for TED. The bottom line was that after much scrutiny, editors attacked his article bit by bit, footnote by footnote, line by line, reference by reference. And I can assure you it did not turn out well for Mr. Francis. But I always had a backstop position. If he had decided to go ahead and sue, if he had decided against his lawyer's advice to go ahead and push the envelope and try to do this, I'm going to sue Wikipedia. My response was pretty simple. Besides the legal one about Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act and how it's all user-generated content and it's a free encyclopedia and there aren't editors standing over someone's shoulder to check everything. It's all distributed and all that. It was, if you sue, my first call is going to be to The Tonight Show. My second call is going to be to David Letterman. We didn't have Jon Stewart yet, or it would have been The Daily Show. But I want you to imagine this Wikipedia versus Girls Gone Wild. And I think that's pretty good for Wikipedia. So the whole idea that I come away from all of this is that once you understand that you can edit Wikipedia, that it's not just you looking at it every day like we know you do, it's that you can contribute a verse, you can correct that typo, you can add that little bit that you see that you go, oh, that's stupid, I can't believe that's wrong. Guess what? Fix it. Click on the edit button, go in, change it. You can do that right now. That's what you can do. It's your power. It's all of your eyeballs. The education level, the experience level of the people in this room is astronomical. It's people like you who make the Wikipedia that much better every minute. Millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of page views every month. And it doesn't have to be a view, it can be an edit. It can be you making a choice to make something better. You doing that little bit to help make something last, make it more powerful. Make it better for people somewhere else. Not just you, for someone else. So my guiding principle in all this is my oldest daughter. She was a few months old then, but the front of the onesie actually says, this is a stub. Inside Wikipedia joke there. But she's 7 now. It matters that what starts that small gets fed the kind of the kind of information that she's going to read now that she's old enough to be able to get into a computer and start looking things up and ask Daddy, why is there an asteroid belt? She can look that stuff up now. She doesn't know that I used to work there. Someday she'll figure it out. But what I'm trying to put against the perspective of time is the years of effort that go into this, the years of collective contribution that come out of our minds, go on to feed her mind, and everybody that comes after us. We build something based on a free license that's there so it can never be reduced. It can only be built up and built on. That's the power. That's what makes it different than an entrepreneurial model that's purely and exclusively market-based that can kill something like Encarta. That's what changes it. That's what makes it immutable as a force to build this knowledge for the world in its own language. So I want to end with a great quote from Camus about what happened with Sisyphus. I leave Sisyphus at the foot of the mountain. One always finds one's burden again. But Sisyphus teaches the higher fidelity that negates the gods and raises rocks. He too concludes that all is well. This universe henceforth without a master seems to him neither sterile nor futile. Each atom of that stone, each mineral flake of that night-filled mountain in itself forms a world. The struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. It's about finding a way forward, trusting ourselves to do better for ourselves, trusting our community, and doing that one bit we can to move the rock. Thank you.